Okay.
That starts it. And comparing the population of Nigeria, how many labor, what's the population of the workers under the labor union compared to the population? Yes, there are so many figures from World Bank, there are so many figures from IMF as regards poverty, as regards standard of living, and as regards some basic macroeconomic parameters. But in a very simple manner, where is the country? Where are we and where are we going to? And where were we coming from? I think those are critical questions. Now, I was discussing with a friend who happens to be a scholar in economics about 3 days ago. He told me something that currently, from some professional analysis, that Nigeria is currently experiencing stagflation. Stagflation means the economy is stagnant. That's in terms of economic growth, but
Okay.
inflation is around the corner. And what is the implication? That some months after inflation, we are going into what we call economic meltdown. But is it different? I want to know that particular term. That now from that inflation, we are going into recession, and it takes about 10 months to recover from recession. That is speaking as an average economist. So personally, I thought about it, and according to World Bank record, I can't really say the year. More than half of the Nigerian population is living below the poverty line. And what is poverty? There are so many definitions for poverty. We have the World Bank definition. Most time we deal with the World Bank, IMF, and UN definitions.
Yes.
Even Nigeria, National Institute of Social and Economic Research, and National Bureau of Statistics, they have their individual definitions for poverty. Some may tell you someone who lives below $1 per day, and some may tell you some people who cannot afford 3 square meal. Like me, I told you I did 010 today. What does that mean? It's telling you that I'm averagely below the poverty line. So please, maybe you should start removing the engineer from my name so that it won't start elevating me. But the critical thing is that I'm looking at Nigeria. This thing about economic assessment. Sometimes, if you look at Nigeria GDP in Africa from record, we have the largest economy. Maybe due to the population, because Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa, which is the truth from records. But that makes our economy a very strong economy. And that is an attraction for investors. It means for every product you produce, for every business you do, it means a unit patronage will attract more customers compared to other countries in countries in Africa. And that's what it means. So that is our strength. And our policies. When this government came in, yes, we heard about giving tax holidays. We heard about, I think there was this issue of cement that came up, and the government had to summon the cement manufacturers to MAN, that's Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. He addressed them and said something about maybe giving them some tax holidays, which might be perceived to be consequential in terms of reduction of prices of cement downstream. But what had triggered this inflationary trend we are experiencing right now? One of those things is the removal of subsidy. One of those things could be devaluation, that's devaluation of our currency, and some other monetary policies. But our GDP, fine. Though, to some extent, I think we are waiting for the first quarter report, because first quarter reports always come maybe by March. We should be expecting first quarter report of the economy, and we have to see maybe the year-on-year decrease or quarter-on-quarter decrease. But with subsidy removal is purely causing inflation, especially if you have to remove subsidy on essential commodity like fuel, like crude oil. It's an essential commodity. There's practically nothing we can do without crude oil. Okay. Without the fuel, manufacturers have to power their plants. And once you remove the price, definitely, once you increase the price, definitely there'll be an increase in cost of production. And the primary thing behind manufacturing or any form of business is reducing cost of production and maximizing your profit.
Okay.
So how do you try to make policy or regulate prices in a situation where the cost of energy is becoming astronomical? That's the reality we are facing. So, and going away from these macroeconomic parameters like GDP, like national income, like per capita income, and all this big English, what is the average standard of living of an average Nigerian on the micro scale? Because micro scale is how it affects the individual Nigerian. So let's leave plotting graphs, let's leave pie chart and bar charts and all these big things. Can an average Nigerian afford 3 square meals now? It's a very serious question. So government policies under section 14 subsection 4, Roman figure B, alphabet B, says that the primary responsibility of the government is to ensure what? Welfare and security of the people. So in a situation where people can't afford basic things, which is clothing, shelter, and food. But now I think we're having internet as a fundamental thing. So we're adding that to it. You know what that means? It means there will be problem there will be anarchy. We are not calling for it.
Okay.
But it's very important for the government to be responsive and to continue its engagement. It is very, very critical.
Engineer Dare, you actually pardon me if I still keep on using engineer because I think I'm already getting used to it. You're actually talking about the GDP, that's the gross domestic product of especially Nigeria. Which is actually the total kind of a total monetary value of all goods and services
produced, yes,
produced and sold
in the country.
And of course, you also made a key statement that Nigeria, of course, as a country, of course, without doubt, is actually the most populous
that's actually our strength
in Africa.
Yes,
and of course, if you actually want to go by the world, maybe after China, we can actually bring in. You can also bring.
In fact, Nigeria should be the China of Africa.
So now, we can actually when you're talking about Nigeria being the most populous country, is actually
in Africa.
In Africa, okay, specifically. Okay, now it's actually one thing, and you after saying all these things, actually I dive to just one aspect, which I think is still becoming a problem of our country, which is actually oil. Now, from actually what you've actually said, it shows specifically that without oil, Nigeria can actually survive, right?
We can survive because see, when there is inflation is simply the general increase in the price of goods and services without a corresponding increase in purchasing power. That is actually the concept. So I'm getting the same salary since 2009. Since 2009, agreement was made by ASU and federal government. But looking at the volatility of dollar between 2009 and now, maybe at that time, dollar was 200 naira per dollar. But now, with the same salary, how do you compare my salary on the dollar scale? That is how it is. So inflation is a very serious issue. But also, looking at all this increase and all this, security is another thing. Now when this government, when they came on board, they were holding bilateral meetings with the aim of attracting foreign direct investment, FDI.
Exactly.
And foreign direct investment is more like you are trying to woo investors from other countries, India, US, China, to come to Nigeria. We always have to sell ourselves from the angle of our strength. Now we have the population, we have this, we have that. But would you invest in a place where you can't guarantee the security of your investment? No, would you? Insecurity is a very, very serious thing in Nigeria, also contributing to our downfall and the image. Most times when you read the news, you hear bombing this, bombing that, kidnapping, even in Federal Capital Territory, which is the mitochondria of the country. That's the powerhouse. Okay. So what do you take of that? Security. So if you are investing your billions of dollars, even if it's billions of naira, would you invest in a place where you feel, and sometimes, the way you and I feel, the people in Borno, the people in Sokoto, the people in Kano, the way we think that place is like a war zone. Deep down, when you hear someone is going to Maiduguri, what comes to your mind? The person is going to go, is committing suicide.
You wouldn't want to go there.
Now, that's also the way some people see Nigeria. That if you are going to Nigeria, maybe you need like Air Force One, like 2, and 4 fighter jets to escort you if you want to make it back to your country. So, who dare invest in such an economy where security is volatile?
Okay.
Among other policies, I just said security. That one is just part of it. But this government is trying to shout.
Security, of course, is actually a very key and a paramount apparatus when it comes to developing the country's economy. Yeah, we can actually dispute that.
And look at power sector. No, we are not here to reflect on. We are not here to reflect on the weakness of our economy. But it translates to the standard of living of the average Nigerian. Because when you are busy, when you have so many tasks ahead of you, you won't even think of social vices.
Now, engineering, let me ask you a quick question because of the statement that you made. When Mr. President, upon his assumption in office, he actually made, just like he said, he had a whole lot of meetings where he was trying to attract foreign investors into the country. First, are you actually in support of foreign investors in the country?
Going by peculiar articles about balance of trade within the continent, because we have this African Free Trade Zone policy. We have, looking at DSTV, GoTV, MTN. These are they are South African companies.
Okay.
And though it's peculiar to Nigeria because yes, Nigeria is assumed to be the big brother in the African Union. Unlike Ghana, where there's a particular law that was made in 2012, that's GIPC law. That GIPC law, I think Dr. Olusegun Aganga was the Minister of Trade and Investment then. The law says that if you have to run a business in the Ghanaian economy, you must invest a minimum of $1 million, and not just that, 60% of your workforce must be Ghanaians. And not just that, there are some key positions, especially on the management board or on the board per se of that particular business or investment. About 60 or 70% must be Ghanaians. So there are some policies that are already in place if you are trying to that should be in place if you are trying to woo investors. But apart from the policy angle, looking at the energy angle, people now spend more on power. So even if you are trying to invest more in encourage more investors to invest in your economy, the ones you have already, what are you doing to sustain them? Now there are various close down. I heard recently that, is it PZ, these people who make baby food or pampers, I don't know, those, they are leaving Nigeria just because of the issue of power. So it means now babies will learn, if you don't, if the pampers are, if we have to start importing pampers from Ghana or Burkina Faso, it means if your baby is pooing at home now, you have to start begging your baby, please regulate the rate at which you do what. Okay. Because the cost of one pampers might nearly cost you. Don't let us even go there. I don't want to go to. So power is a very critical challenge.
The reason why I actually have to ask that question, if you're actually in support of foreign investors in the country, is because I think, to the best of my knowledge, if you actually want to look at the downfall of the country and most of the issues happening in the country, we can actually begin to talk about that without also attributing it to most of these multinational corporations. Because trust me, I think they have actually been one of the major backbone to the downfall of the country. Now, from all what, yes, I actually said that.
Well, I want to. We shouldn't assume that here. We won't have to be objective or affirm such a position.
It's actually my
nobody
position.
Can enter your father's house without your approval, and nobody can misbehave without your approval in your father's house. If I'm coming to your father's house, I must know the law of your family. Okay. What you do in the morning, what you do in the night, what you do in the afternoon. Then if I have to violate any of those codes, then it has to be on your approval. That's the similarity. So if you are trying to attract investors, your electricity has to be sound. It has to be. Look at Michelin, Pirelli, big manufacturing industries, assembly plants. They've all left Nigeria. How do you attract manufacturing? How do you ensure economic productivity? And looking at Nigeria economic space, yes, we shout every day we are diversifying into agriculture, we are diversifying into exploration of mineral resources. If you look at the level of black market sales of our mineral resources, well, we don't have the facts. I don't have the facts. But if you look at the level of black market sales in the mineral resources sector, with what we hear as speculations, though we are not saying it is correct, but that's our position. If you look at the black market sales of some some minerals like tourmaline, like lithium, we have those rumors. I will call it rumor because we are on here. We shouldn't misinform our people. We can only say it is true when it is true. But to some extent, sometimes when information like this, when they come out, we try to look at it and look at the potency and how it affects the downstream. And we have Ajakuta Steel Company there, lying moribund. Ajakuta Steel Company, according to reports, will be able to refine, even reform mineral resources to about 70%. But they won't allow you to work. Why? Because some people hold the license to import. So a consuming economy will never grow. Will never grow. You must produce to earn foreign exchange. People must change their money into your own currency for you to appreciate. But you can't continue to import this, import that, and do what? And believe your value, your currency will be useful. Your currency will experience an increase in value. It's not possible. And when you manufacture, you create more opportunity for people. Now, logically, subsidy has been removed from education. Yes, primary education. No, logically, yes. When I mean logically, I say it's not direct removal. But there are some things the government do initially, especially under the recurrent expenditure, like send money for diesel, send money for vehicle servicing. But now the universities has to generate their funds from within. Is it my salary that we use for that one? Salary that is not even okay. So the schools are forced now to look inward, and I want to some extent, yes, the school is trying to generate its own income, but the student is looking like straining. It's looking like squeezing. It's looking like stretching it to elastic limit. That is what it looks like. But to some extent, the schools must look inward and generate their money, because this money is no longer coming from the federal government coffers. So where do we go to? So it means people are forced now to do one or two things to ensure that they do what? They pay their tuition. That's the way it goes. And education is on the exclusive list, though primary education is on the exclusive list. That's why you have the suburban. But even in some primary schools today, pupils still pay money to some government. And it is sacrosanct that primary education should be what? Free. So to some extent, it is all consequential. In a way, there's a ripple effect of this. Like if I got my salary now, I already have people who are lining up for sharp 2k, quick 2k. Once the salary entered, in fact, recently they paid 4 months salaries. The federal government paid for a 4 month salary out of the 8 months they were owing as lecturers in Nigeria. But when I got my own already, my urgent 2Ks are already lining up on the on the psychological streets. Where do I do that? I must pay. And that's how it goes. It's a ripple effect. Now, looking at the employment, once there is foreign direct investment, once there is an increase in productivity or manufacturing or production, there will be employment. There will be employment across board. So with all this economic menace, it has driven the economy so slow that people are no longer employed. And in fact, people are losing their job. People are losing their job. And there are some critical sectors that a country that is not that has to ensure that it won't head towards collapse, like health sector. We've recorded massive brain drain in that sector. Even in the educational sector, so many lecturers are now emigrating to developed countries like US, like Canada, where we perceive it to that an average person who has a level of human capital development will earn value for its money and for its services. So so the economic policy or the hardship is not sectarian. It's just spreading across. And that's why now politicians now what they will have to do is they have to ensure they buy more bulletproof cars, because they don't know if they are going back to their constituencies. They have to use bulletproof cars because they don't know who and who will mob them. They don't know who and who will attack them, because a hungry man is what? That is,
It's an angry man.
see, if you know, see a plate of food now on the average $1. How much is a dollar on the parallel market? And the valuation was done practically to bridge the gap between the official exchange rate and the parallel market. That okay, if you can devalue the money to some extent to try to regulate the foreign exchange market, because it is believed that when these dollars are released, the Bureau de Change agencies, because they could freeze their prices, they hold the dollar and create artificial scarcity, so that people will have to be able to pay more to get it. No. So I believe the government is optimistic. I believe Tunde Edun, who happens to be our minister of the coordinating minister of the economy, is competent. We are still looking forward to the government of the country, because we don't have any choice. We are under this government, and we must always pray for them and hope that they do the best. There's nothing we can do than to pray for them and be optimistic. But we are looking forward to a Nigeria where pure water will be sold at the rate of 5 naira. Petroleum, the pump price of petrol will go back to something like 150, 100 naira, so that you and I will be able to.
I think
So that
2007 is still.
In fact, recently, let me bust your brain. People, on Friday night we have some people who go to some open bar, open field around, where they take some alcoholic beverages that were sold maybe as of last year at the rate of 500 naira, 400 naira. People no longer go out. People have resolved into taking ogogoro and pouring water inside it, so that at least if people who can take 4 bottles now, they take one, you will not pretend as if it's shacking you. You understand? So people are not even happy. But that's why maybe maybe a state like Akwa Ibom, where they still do happy hour, maybe to some extent they will still have to. But people now who take 4, 5 bottles, 6 bottles before, they now take half bottle. If people share 1 bottle, they share 1 bottle and pretend as if they are high. They will be spiritual highness. You will just be high and be talking as if you have to assume the highness, because there's no money. It is when there is money in the economy that's when you can be happy. So, and look at you and I. If you go to the street and you explain to them that Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa, Nigeria has the largest GDP, we have this, we have that, to someone who has not eaten, what would the person do to you? And we're not even sure if one of them is listening to us. Please, if you are listening to us and you are not eating, we are in this together. But let us continue to pray for our government to do better.
All right, if you are just joining us, tuning in, this is actually the State of the Nation on Unica 103.5, the number 1 radio station right in the prestigious University of Calabar. The voice that just finished speaking is that of Engineer Dare, of course, who have actually been emphasizing on the economic challenges of the country currently, and so far he has actually been able to point out the issue of unemployment security, and he has also been able to point out the issue of unemployment and also inflation also as some of those challenges that has actually resulted to Nigeria's economy not down. And of course, I think this is actually getting interesting, even though time is actually not really on our side. Remember, you can always follow us on official Facebook page, Unica Radio International, Twitter, Instagram at Unica. And one so far, we've actually been talking about the current economy of the country, which you and I can actually attest to the fact that things are actually not the same it has always been. Things are actually getting. In fact, I don't know if I should actually use the word things are actually getting out of hand. And I think some days ago, I think a certain minister actually a certain former minister actually made a statement that the current administration shouldn't do something that will lead into another protest, that because it will definitely be out of hands. And of course, while so many persons have actually been reacting to this very statement, that yes, if the people should, if the government of the day should actually allow the people should to protest again, that it will be out of hand. And I think as of which day, I think that was yesterday or day before yesterday.
One beautiful thing
that the military actually planning a coup in the country.
No, that one is definitely this. No, in times like this, I'm not really a student of mass communication, but to some extent, I know negative news or rumors sells faster, spreads faster. Yeah. So that's the logic. But what beautiful thing about this current situation of the country? I pray we don't go in the way of Zimbabwe, where you buy a loaf of bread at the rate of 200,000 Zimbabwean dollar, just a loaf of bread. Recession, inflation, hardship, low standard of income, does not know party A from party B. Now, this current situation is being felt by both all the members of the political parties in Nigeria, especially at the downstream. Now, if you cannot go to Abuja at your convenience now, we are together, whether you like it or not. That's the way it is. But I, as a person, objectively assessing the situation also, I won't want to see the economic situation, because what we're experiencing is that it's more like a consequence of previous economic policies that were not implemented. At least actively, I've witnessed about 3 tenures. Like, if I mean active, I mean I'm aware of what had really happened. Obasanjo, I was a little bit young then, but I could still know 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yaradua, yes, I was conscious. Jonathan, fully conscious. Buhari, top to bottom, we were there together. But so the consequence of what we are experiencing now, like for instance, depletion of foreign reserve. Our foreign reserve during Obasanjo grew the foreign reserve to a particular point where we could adjudge him to have done well when it comes to saving. Now, what did Yaradua do? Where was the foreign reserve under Jonathan? But now we are aware that the foreign reserve is, in fact, is far below nothing. And foreign reserve and all these excess crude accounts, especially in public financing, these are places where countries leverage on to at least earn. So, and all these loans we get from IMF, we get from World Bank, we get from this. Those loans are meant to be serviced, not just from all those bodies. Even banks borrow government loan. And those loans, that was why when this government came in, or there was a particular position suggested by Governor Rufai, that I listened to Governor Rufai talk about it, and it's about increasing your, I think Sanusi also made such a position, make sure you increase your capital expenditure. It has to be more than your recurrent expenditure. Over the years, our recurrent expenditure had always been more than our capital expenditure. And the remaining of the budget is always going into debt servicing. So if you use about 50% of your budget to finance debt, and your capital expenditure is far lower than your recurrent expenditure, it means you can never produce anything. And what is capital? What is recurrent? Capital expenditure is meant for construction of road, establishment of industries, facilitation of what? Of opportunities for the people. And these are projects where you earn from, where when corporations pay taxes, when citizens pay taxes, you try to get your money back. And what are recurrent expenditure? Recurrent expenditure is just purely based on salaries, wages, and also monies for let's say servicing of engines, machines, and maintenance. Those recurrent expenditure is not meant for creation of job opportunities. No, it's just meant to service the economy, to ensure that workers are being paid and basic things, daily routines are being carried out. But capital enables you to set up businesses, set up infrastructure that will earn your government taxes and revenue. So if you have an economy where the 70% of the budget is on recurrent and 30% or let's say 20% on capital, you know you definitely you're not getting anything out of that, because from your capital expenditure you set up initiatives for agricultural development. And when you develop the agriculture, like recently some states are buying tractors. I'm still coming to that as an engineer. I won't even want to address that now. How do you buy 1,000 tractors? What 1,000 tractors on what? If you buy 1,000 tractors, it's like buying 1,000 plow, buying 1,000 arrow, 1,000 ridger, 1,000 planter. So all these things shouldn't be a constituency project, or a project, or let me just try and buy 1,000 units of this so I'll be able to get money from this. It's a good initiative, but these things has to be on need. We shouldn't waste money on what? On resources. How do you service 1,000 tractors? So how do you manage them? So you don't just outscale. You understand? And how does the government maintain infrastructures? Are we so good in infrastructural maintenance? Because maintenance of infrastructure is another factor, is another thing that affects us in this country. That's why every local government secretariat to visit today, you always see one tractor pad in one corner, you see one excavator inside one bush, you will see one. No, it's because see, it's not really the cost of buying tractors immediately, it's the cost of maintaining them to ensure that they are functional throughout their service life. Service. Okay, don't let me start talking about about agricultural engineering. But it's the truth.
Engineer Dare, I think this is actually getting more interesting. But quickly, let's quickly make reference to. I'm still making reference to the gross domestic product. That's the GDP of Nigeria. Of course, in the fourth quarter of 2022, it was realized that Nigerians' total trade actually stood at 11.6 billion, of which total exports stood at 6.3 billion, and total export amounted to 5.3 billion. And of course, 2022, in less than 12 months, we've actually seen the total imports value, which has actually gone above that the export. So in this sense, it actually shows that Nigeria as a country have actually been living more on importation of goods, and of course materials added rather than exportation. And I think just like you've actually said that, just like you rightly said that most of the things that of course we have in the country has actually been more of importation. But then now what actually caught my attention the most is that now if you actually want to make a close look at 2022-2023, whereby as of then, of course, the import value was actually at a lower level compared to the export level. But we cannot actually really say that there has been a major like a big difference in terms of in the economy compared to now. Of course, we can actually say, people will always say that things were not that costly in 2022 compared to 2023, but even at that, if you want to take our minds back again to 2022, like a final seven in 2022, we can also still say that things were still costly, life was still costly in 2022. So does it mean that when it comes to the value of export and import, that it doesn't really count to the country's economy?
You know, this same question is similar to the question a student asked. I was taking them on evolution of man in terms of science and technology. Okay. And we're trying to reflect on the past men. There's a species called Australopithecus africanus. You know, we are Homo sapiens. Before Homo sapiens, we had Homo habilis and Homo erectus. So the question was, in the next 1 million, 2 million years, are we still going to have men? And I said, yes, it's possible to have men, but that time maybe men will be flying. Maybe they will grow wings and be flying. Though I know some of us are flying already. I know some people are flying in spirit already. But it's just to say, so when you look at the level of inflation and the economic situation, you know, at that time you said it was worse, but now it is what?
I don't know. Then it was bad. I think now we should say it's worst.
Now tomorrow, what will happen? No,
we should leave the question to our listeners.
So it's a question of yes. You know, when we read figures, macroeconomic figures, and they tell us 50% is this, 50%, you know, most times, yes, whether we like it or not, we have to go by the data from National Bureau of Statistics and some research institute like NISA, National Institute of Social and Economic Research. But when you talk of import and export, definitely you know you can't be holistic. And a commodity like rice, can we say importation of rice has stopped? If yes, can we say all areas where smuggling could take place, can we say that those places had already been blocked? Because remember, President Buhari, Muhammadu Buhari, made the presidential declaration, that's presidential executive order in 2022 or 2021, that rice and some commodities should stop. And if that stops, it means it will promote the businesses of local farmers, because there will be constant demand for rice, and now we'll have to look inwards and get right from within. But are you saying that those loopholes for importation or illegal smuggling, are those places blocked? And are we getting data from those places too? For instance, also this same executive order also binded toothpick. We import toothpick now, don't you?
Yeah.
When last did you use toothpick?
I can't remember.
Because I'm looking at your diastema now, so it's like you're using imported toothpick. The diastema between your teeth. So to some extent, so we can't, our data can't be, well, we have to rely on it, but sometimes for national planning, we rely on them. But when it comes to being objective and when we want to be solution oriented, can we actually rely on this data? That's the question. So when you say importation has reduced and this and is actually shouldering with exportation, I can still agree with that, because how porous is our border? In fact, I was told that in some places, some region of the country, there's no difference between some countries and this Nigeria. So in those people just carry bike and just, in fact, you can sleep in another country and wake up in another country. You can just go and play with your friend in another country and come. So all those things are there. So if it's until you convert those experiences into figure, data, and you not publish those data, and a poor man like me, or maybe a growing man like me, will read it and say, yes, exportation is totally more than importation. But with those data, my brother, well, we will still have to bank on them, but to some extent. See, all I would say is that if the government can be, if there's political will to do anything today, I'm sure they will do it. And let me tell you one of the reasons why the yesterday's protest was not that engaging. It's because the Trade Union Congress has done a party to that. I think trade union backed out maybe some days or some hours or some minutes before the protest. And you know, there are some key sectors like banking sector. Banking sector, if you're not able to make some transactions in a day, you know there will be a problem. Number two, the aviation sector. If our people cannot fly, maybe they will have to develop the technology where they can disappear. But I'm not sure of that technology yet. You know, but our forefathers used it. And I'm sure maybe some of your forefathers also used it. But if they can bank on how to start developing how to disappear here, get to the embassy of US, disappear, land in Lagos, maybe aviation sector will no longer be relevant. But if aviation sector can key to something, and the likes of oil and gas workers can key essential services, my brother, the government will be serious. But mind you, if there's political will to do something, definitely government will do it. If they realize if you don't do this, there will be anarchy, there will be fire on the mountain, they will do it. But how do we categorize a system, a situation that does not value its citizens? We must value your citizens. Looking at so many graduates on the street, in fact, how does a graduate become a taxi driver? I'm not trying to say taxi driving is a bad thing, but you ran through the 4 walls of this university, you did projects, you spoke in English, good and correct English, and you're now resolving into driving taxi. Even if you've been into transportation business, you should be at the management level, because the university system is to train you to be a manager, to be a supervisor. Not saying atimbo, I can't. No, it's not that. So how do you expect those people to believe in the project called Nigeria? How? So right, our system should value education, should value its people, and ensure that people are well positioned for global competitiveness. Yes, look at Nigerians, they japa. After japa, they become the best anywhere they are in the field of medicine, engineering, mathematics, and all those notable fields. Even in communication, Nigerians are everywhere. But until they japa, so it's more like there's a jinx in this country. But I'm sure that jinx is not affecting me. I don't even know if that's a jinx that is making me talk like this. I don't know.
Actually pray that it happens to you.
Why what about yourself? No, because why should you go out of the country before your dreams have been actualized?
Engineer. Anyways, I actually don't want to. I don't want us to actually debate on the topic about university graduates actually finding themselves in mini jobs of like transportation business, all those.
There should be jobs.
I think if you actually want to look currently, I think those persons are, if case not taken, they're actually making more money than you.
Yes. That's the informal sector, yes. But no, you should go into such a sector because you want to go into them. Okay, look, during the 8-month strike, so many lecturers became boat drivers.
And they were making money.
but see, they were making money, but you can't, that is why, see, you can't actually compare to, it's a knowledge sector. Okay. You can't leave a laboratory and go and start doing both. You're supposed to be in your lab, doing research, writing papers, and getting reward for value for money, value for excellence. You are publishing. If you are publishing in a country like South Africa, there is a particular amount, and those countries don't mind you. Those countries always come out with the best of the best. They have grants, they have scholarships. If you can do this, yes, you can do it. There are grants for you to access. But now you want to write paper, you finish writing paper, you go and start driving boat. And when you are driving boat as a lecturer, a yahoo boy will now order the boat, and your student will now order the boat. How will your student greet you? And that is the level to which the education has actually derailed to. No, how do you categorize that? You tell the student stand up, sit down, do this, and the student now order the boat. If the student now want to rate you, he will now rate you low, and both will now close down your account.
All right.
I'm not trying to. I'm being sarcastic, yes, but in a way, if I'm in the academics, I should be rated. A professor earns far less than so many people. So many people in other sectors. A professor at the bar. Do you know what that means?
I think 10 right now is actually really.
So I'm not advocating for lecturers. So I'm just trying to say, even in the other sectors,
even if you're advocating for lecturers,
even in the other sectors,
actually not wrong.
Yes.
Anyways, thank you so much, engineer.
Yes. So thank you very much
joining us. That has been the State of the Nation on Unica 103.5 here in the studio of Unica 103.5 with engineer Dare. We've actually been talking about the current economy of the country, and trust me, it's not just ending today. Of course, when we come your way again on Friday, we'll actually be looking at the current economic quagmire, and also be looking at the history of the naira growth. These are, of course, many more is what we'll be looking at on Friday's edition of our State of the Nation. Don't forget that we bring this to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the studio of Unica 103.5 to all students, of course, in the voice of engineer Dare, that we are really suffering. We are really suffering. I hope that whatever you are doing, actually try to find a way to come out of your current stress. We know that times that the engineer Dare actually said, he made a statement which I quote him, is that now students actually have to engage in saving one thing or the other just to make sure they can pay their tuition fees. And I hope that whatever you are finding yourself doing will actually be what is actually legal and not
yes. In fact, yesterday, let me tell you something I did yesterday. I was in a class yesterday and I told the student that all of you that are doing yahoo, that they said you should use your lecturer. Maybe if I recognize you to say something, if you do like this and wave at me, you will use me. It cannot catch me, because me too, I'm passing through the hardship. And if you use me, I will not give you dollar. Maybe I'll give you kobo or shillings.
All right, guys. So whatever you're doing, just try to make sure that you find yourself into a genuine and, of course, the legal business. Still will come your way again on Friday by 2 p.m. For now, I'll see you. Do enjoy the rest of the day. And now we are so much sorry that we could not actually open phone lines so you could actually be part of this conversation. I think the conversation we actually really took a lot of time, but definitely on Friday, definitely we should be able to open the phone lines for you, because I trust that you actually have a lot of things to say out there, and this is one of the reasons why we are here. Till we meet again, do have an eventful and lovely day. Good afternoon once again.